There's a lot going on in the indexing space these days, and there's some things that are important, we think, for being an independent index provider. And we'll start with a couple of very basic questions. Is what is the role of an index, and why is the methodology so important? Raman?
So if we look at the role of index itself, when indexes were created, or financial indexes were created about 100 years ago, the primary role was to measure the market sentiment. But over the years, indexes have evolved and they have multiple roles to play. So today when we talk about indexes, primarily we're talking about benchmark indexes. And benchmark index has a role to play in the entire ecosystem of the investment process, starting from asset allocation all the way to performance measurement, and more on the product allocation, or as a vehicle for investments itself. So in all the aspects, there are trade-offs involved, because if you look at asset allocation, you want very broad benchmarks. When you come to product creation, you want a little bit more investable benchmark. So that's where the methodology comes in. So as an index provider or a benchmark administrator, we want to make sure that we want to minimize the trade-offs and maximize the efficiency of benchmark construction. That's why the benchmarks are, methodologies are quite important.
Isa?
Sure. I think in a very broad sense, and I agree with Raman, indices provide essential information on financial markets. And with transparency, as Raman noted, the indices have evolved over the years. And these days, indices, not only serve as a way to measure the return to a particular asset class, geographic region, or an investment style. More and more indices are being used as the underlying for investment products. And they are all done with stated mission and the objective, and that mission is clearly outlined in the methodology document, and we have index construction rules that are explicitly stated to achieve that objective. So indices are playing greater important role these days in the financial market, and methodology absolutely is a key in achieving that.
One area that we get lots of questions, and there's a lot of investor confusion, is what's the difference between the index and the product they invest in? Raman?
So when you look at, index is just a statistical construct. It's a bunch of stocks put together as a benchmark. Now what you actually invest in is a product which tracks a benchmark. Most of the times, that's where the difference comes in, because if you are a product creator, you're probably trying to track the benchmark or the index as close as possible. That's what the concept of tracking error comes in. But many of the time, if the indexes are not liquid enough, they are not properly constructed, then there will be slippage happening between what the index returns will be, what the benchmark tracker will be doing. So that's where the methodology, again, the question of methodology comes in. So we want to make sure that the benchmarks are investable, replicable, and as an investor, the investor should understand what is under the hood, what you're actually buying from an index. You're not just buying a bunch of stock. Along the index, you're buying the selection mechanics, the weighting mechanics, the rebalancing, the index maintenance. All this is all packaged together, and that's what a index product replicator is trying to achieve in the fund or a ETF that he's trying to manage.
Asa?
When we're talking about passive investment vehicles, right, this is where the underlying benchmark is key, because these products are tracking the underlying benchmark, and through that they're providing the exposure. Therefore, benchmarks are the starting point of any index-linked investment product. And with that comes understanding how that benchmark is constructed. As Raman noted, it comes with security selection, how is the index put together, the weighting mechanism, and the rebalancing, all the other considerations that go into achieving the objective that the product is tracking. One thing to take note of that is, indices are not directly investable, right? So therefore, we don't incur trading cost or friction or what have you, and that's where the differences between the index and the index-linked product will come in.